I do several areas of web content development here on my YouTube channel, and one of my most popular ones is the full screen background HTML CSS. And somebody asked me the other day how they could put the same thing into their Phaser game. So I agreed to make a video for them, and I hope you find it useful as well. I've set up a utility template here, and this is a template that I've made, and I've made another video on how to use that, and I'll put the link up there at the top. And it's just a free download from phasergames.com, or you can use a basic template from the same place. Or even if you're using your own thing, I'll go through what the functions of the template are doing, so you'll be able to cover this yourself no matter what kind of template that you're using. First thing I'm going to do is simply preload the image, the background image here. And we want to be able to make this full screen inside the game. So let me preload that, load image. This load image, background, and images/background.jpg for the path, and let bg equal this add image 00 and background for the key. Let's have a look at that. And there it is. But we want it to be full screen, and we want it proportional, and we want to be able to move it around and have it exactly like we want it, and we want to make sure it works across all devices. So the first thing we want to do is be able to scale the image. And in the utility template, there is a function inside the align class, scale to game width. And what this does is it takes the display width of the object and it sets it to a percentage of the game's width. And then after it changes the display width, we set scale Y to equal the scale X of the object, and that will make it proportional. Let me show you real quick. Align scale to game width, BG, and say I made it 10% of the game. And there it is up at top, very small. If I did it to 50%, and let me put that in the center, I'll use another function inside align center, BG. There, so it's centered, and the width is 50% of the game. And I can set it to full width, but that doesn't cover the height. And we could just keep taking it up 3 times. And there, it's finally full screen. But the problem is, if we keep doing it by the width, it is not going to fit on all devices. iPad, Pixel 2, see there we have the bars. So the way I like to do it is to scale it by the game height. And there's not a function in there for that, but we can change it real quick. So I'll just take this code out, and I'll take out all this as well. So now we're just left with the preload and the image. So background display height, we want that to equal the same as the game's height, game config height. And if you do not have game as a global variable, you can say this SYS, game config height, this being the scene. And then to do it proportionally, background scale X equals BG scale Y. And then we need to center it on the screen, and we can use that align center. And then I'll do it the other way, so in case you're not using the utility template, you can still be able to do it. There, now it's in the center, and it's all proportional. We have full screen. And when we center, we just set the X to game config width divided by 2 and the Y to game config height divided by 2. So I'll change that now. BG Y equals game config height divided by 2 and BG X equals game config width divided by 2, and using the this SYS game in replacement for game there in case you do not have game as a global variable. There. So now we've got a full screen. If you want to offset that, say that we want to show that cabin in there instead, we can offset it. If you said BGX equals -200, for example, that will move the image over. BGX equals 1400, and there's the cabin right there on the hillside. But if we're doing it by static numbers, then it's going to mess up when we're doing it on, say, the iPad or another computer. It's maybe not going to show that because 1400 pixels may not even be the size of the screen. So what we should do is do it by percentage. So background X equals background display width, and then times the percentage. And then you have to just kind of play around with it until you get where you need it to be. So background display width times 0.5. And there it is. So it's always going to put it over there in the corner or around there. And I can change that by saying to 40% instead. iPhone X and the iPad. So there we go. That is how I would do a full background in an HTML5 or a phaser game using maths to be able to solve the problem. I hope you found that useful. Thank you very much for watching.